Welcome back, friends. How to heal your inner child. Do you find that you have a hard time sticking up for yourself? Do you find yourself in the same struggles over and over again? Maybe it's happening at work with a coworker, or it's someone in your personal life, like a family member, that really challenges you, and you just can't hit delete and erase them from your life. You have to face this person and it's challenging. What I'm talking about here is whenever I have something come up over and over again, it can be sometimes like I'll call up a friend and I'll say, "I'm really struggling with this." And she's like, "Oh, again? You just told me this a month ago." "Yes, and I'm still dealing with it." "Okay, so do you know what I'm talking about?" "Yes, it's like themes that happen over and over again. And it just seems like we have no control over this." Well, you know what? We do. What God is showing us is that there is a blessing or something good to come out of this challenge. But when we don't face that challenge, we don't receive the blessing. It's not really fun to face these challenges because we'd rather just kind of hide and ignore it. Or, if there's, for example, if it was like a coworker that was bothering me, I would just, avoid them and at all costs or something like that. But eventually it will still happen and happen and happen until it's like, okay, Lord, what do you want me to do? This can be a very difficult situation. And I think what we need to do is take a look at why these things are happening again. And what I have found is that, at least for me, a lot of times it goes back to my childhood. It's some sort of trigger that wasn't healed or wasn't identified. It might be just as simple as acknowledging that that happened to me before so that I can move on. So, but first, what the heck is an inner child? And why do you need to heal it? I remember the first time I heard the term inner child, it was in the 90s. And I thought it sounded really funny. I thought it was almost like an excuse to stay the victim, like, oh, I have an inner child that's, scarred or something like that. So at the time, I didn't really buy into it. But then during a therapy session a few years ago, that all changed for me. I was stuck and I was explaining the same situation to my therapist, Debbie. And I was like, here we go again. This keeps popping up over and over again. On a side note, I just want to say that along with having an inner child that needs to be healed, typically there are boundaries that are not being set. And the reason why boundaries are so difficult to be set with people is because you have to tell them no and you have to identify that something isn't right. But if your inner child is still not being healed or met, you might not even identify that. You're just kind of going with the flow and you're going through life like how you always have in my life. And so here I am in the therapy session with Debbie, and I'm explaining to her about a family member in my life that I have struggled with. And it has been a theme in my life. And that this person has a very strong personality and a strong opinion about me. And she stops me and she's like, "Rebecca, you're an adult. You have children of your own now, and you are able to parent for them. So why are you not able to stand up for yourself against this individual and say, no, this is my truth," or whatever? So I remember thinking, I don't know why I can't just face this person and tell them no and stick up for myself. Debbie asked me to go back to a time in my life when I was a child and things weren't the best of, or, what came to mind. I went to age 6 to the first home I lived in with my mom. She brought me to, it was almost like a meditation. She just said, "I want you to go back. I want you to close your eyes and I want you to meet yourself at 6 and just tell me what the house looks like and what's happening." And so I closed my eyes and I said, "Yep, I see me." I just started talking about the heaviness. Like I could just feel it on my shoulders and I could feel at age 6 the responsibility and the fear. And I realized very quickly, okay, I know why I'm going back here, because I have to identify that this was a painful part of my life. Okay. I sat down and had an imaginary talk with my child. First, it felt weird. Like I felt like, okay, what is this really going to do? And there's a little bit of self talk in the head, like, okay, I'm doing this, Debbie. I'm trusting you. And she just said, just ask her what's going on in her life. And Do you know what? I mean, I could hear her. She was so chattery. She wanted to talk. She just wanted someone to hear her. And I realized that when I was a little girl, because of my mom's illness, she wasn't able to really be a present mother to me. Okay. And my dad wasn't even there. My dad was, I don't know where my dad was. So I just worked through that and I could feel the responsibility there and feel the pressure and the fear. And when I opened my eyes for a little bit, I noticed that the room was spinning and I said, "Debbie, I think I'm having a panic attack." And she said, "Okay, I want you to put your feet on the floor and just breathe." And so she helped me breathe and she helped me come back into my body. I need to be able to talk about these things without having a panic attack. And she said, "It's okay. You're safe and you need to talk about this." We went back to the girl, we went back to my inner child, and she said, "I want you to tell your child that you are an adult and you've made it. Will you tell her that?" And so I did. I was like, "Hey, I know you're freaking out right now. I know you're feeling lost and you're feeling hopeless, but I'm telling you, it gets better. You grow up, you get married, you have children, you figure some things out. Like some of the people that you thought had the best intentions for you, they maybe didn't. I can say this and you'll probably understand this. We look up to our parents like our parents know all. But our parents are humans too, and they're just doing the best they can, but they're human beings and they're flawed. And I think that's one thing I really wished that I could have told my little girl self is, your mom's doing her best, but she's pretty sick and she can't help it. But at the same time, it's not okay. You need a mom. Debbie said, "Okay, ask her if she wants to come home with you." I'm like, "Really? Like she can come home with me?" Yeah. She goes, "Ask her if she wants to come home. Let her know that you have a bedroom for her." I'm like, "Okay." So, and she said she might be too scared and it's okay. But my inner child wasn't. And she was like, "Yeah, let's go." And she just like hopped in my car. And the next thing I knew, we were like driving down the interstate and we were like busting out of that childhood home. And it just, the sense, I don't know, I could just cry now, even thinking about that there was freedom in that I wasn't stuck in that childhood home forever. I wasn't stuck in feeling responsible for someone else and that I had somebody that just loved me unconditionally, that was there for me, telling me I was going to be okay, that feeling of release. So that whole meditation made me realize that I did suffer from neglect. I think it just, for so many years of my life, I've been getting migraines. I've been tired. I can't, I'm triggered by things. I'm sensitive. I've always been told my whole life, like, "Becky, you're too sensitive." Well, I'm sensitive because I've been through something, and that was so liberating and so educational for me to go through and so healing for me to go through. And I just want to, I'm sharing this today so that you can go through this process. And there's several ways that you can do this. Obviously, number one is if you have a therapist, you can do this with your therapist. By far, that's going to be the best because you're not going to have to worry about creating like a meditation for yourself at home. Number two, you can do this at home. And probably the next best thing I would recommend is Dr. John Bradshaw's book called Homecoming. You can get it on the audiobooks or Audible app. What he does on the audiobook is he takes you through a meditation and he'll say, "Go back to a time, go back to your childhood home," and he will guide you through it. And I mean, be prepared, be comfortable, make sure that no one's going to interrupt you, that you have Kleenex. I recommend using a phone and using a voice memo app so that you can just say things that come to mind, or you can even like type it out in the notes app, or you can just have a basic notebook, however you want to do it. But you really want to sit into it. And the reason why it's good to record it too is that way you can just sit with your eyes shut and you don't have to worry about writing or anything. Chances are you're going to go through the meditation, you're going to have an aha moment of, "Oh, that's what happened to me. That's why so and so irritates me. That's why this keeps happening over and over again." And you can just kind of like notice it and be aware of it. And then also, this is the biggest part of it, is telling your child that you are an adult now and you have all the tools to deal with this, and you will on their behalf. You will step in and you will guide your child back to safety. This is the biggest part of it, is telling your child that you are an adult now and you have all the tools to deal with this, and you will on their behalf. You will step in and you will guide your child back to safety. There is a third option that I have not personally done, but I want to tell you about it. Recovery of Your Inner Child. It's a pink book cover, and the author name is Lucia Capacchione. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. She is the first pioneer for reparenting the inner child movement that came about in the 60s. She uses a writing method of using your non dominant hand. Again, I've not personally done this, but basically, since I'm right handed, if I were to do it, I would just journal using my left hand, and I would answer questions in her book and go back to that time. And I think by writing in your non dominant hand, it almost looks like a child's hand. Again, I haven't done this myself, but this would be another option. This is your opportunity to acknowledge and heal from something that's happened in your past so that you can become a better you. I encourage you to try the exercises that I've laid out. Again, don't forget to, use a therapist if you have one handy, but this can be a really important part of your developing and your healing and moving into your purpose, which is what I'm going to talk about in my next episode. God's purpose for you and what He's asking you to do in your life. So you don't want to miss that one. Thanks so much, and God bless you. See you next time.